Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sunnyvale Mayor Larry Klein. Thanks for joining me again this week at our early start time. Happy Friday the 13th. I hope everyone's doing well. This is our 73rd installment of the weekly virtual office hours that I have. We've now reached 515 days since the March 16th, 2020 county health order started the shelter in place in an attempt to slow the spread of COVID-19. 17 months ago now, I converted my weekly coffee shop hours, office hours at downtown Murphy Avenue into this live stream address. And I haven't missed a week since. People really say they enjoy hearing from their mayor, and it's really good for me because, it allows me to reflect over the last few weeks, but it also allows me a chance to provide you some updates and some news, answer some of your questions, and of course, pass on some general words of encouragement. I'm now following up these virtual live stream addresses with in-person events, basically meeting people at Bean Scene Cafe on Murphy Avenue for the next 2 hours. So from around 9:15, 9:30 to about 11:30. So if you want to drop by, if you want to reserve that time, just reach out. But you can always just drop by, and if you have a quick question or whatever, definitely feel free to come down to Murphy Avenue. But of course, thank you for allowing me to continue to represent you and work for Sunnyvale. I hope everyone is doing well, staying healthy, and of course, wearing your mask again. It's required again when you're indoors, regardless of your vaccination status. And a few months ago, I started changing my background art every week with art provided by Sunnyvale artists. Today's piece is called Pretty in Pink. It's again by Andrea Catura, who's provided several of our pieces over the last few months. So if you are interested in purchasing that art, please reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with the artist. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started and talk about what's happened at the federal, state, county, and city level over the last few weeks. Last Monday, City Hall reopened its doors. So we're now open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It was actually good to see some of the city staff, and actually they hadn't seen each other in person. They'd only seen each other through Zoom and team meetings for the last year and a half, and it was good that they finally saw some people face to face. And so the city hall is opened. Planning had been open for appointments previously, but now they're open for in person for anyone walking into the one-stop help desk. And then the library is extended its hours, so it's open, Monday through Sunday back at its old hours. So definitely you can go back to attend city services, go to the library. But of course, last Monday afternoon, county health officials in pretty much all the Bay Area counties issued new health orders, which went into effect Tuesday. And the new health order requires everyone, regardless of their vaccination status, to wear face coverings indoors in any public setting. So, and it was the majority of the counties in the Bay Area. Later in the week, another county added on, but Santa Clara County Council said that that they would be taking, if you have issues, if you know businesses that aren't following those orders, there's a way on the county website to do complaints about violators. And then the county council said that all enforcement would really be complaint based, so that they're not going to be actually going out in the community to enforce unless people are complaining that the mask mandate is not being followed. And of course, in restaurants and bars, customers can take off their masks when they're eating or drinking. So it isn't, definitely in the restaurant environment, bar environment, it's not required at all times. And then let's see, and that mask mandate would be done indefinitely, but it hopefully will slow hospitalization rates and COVID and new COVID case rates. So we'll see how well that helps out. But we've seen just an alarming increase in the last few weeks. And then last Monday, I visited Sunnyvale Community Services to celebrate their annual Back to School Day. And it's actually good. This is kind of a continuation of their old, used to be backpack to school day, but now it's providing gift cards for new school for kids going to school for shoes, backpacks, school supplies, providing some general items for kids going back to school. And he was a lot of smiling, kids and parents as they did drive-by pickup. So it actually worked out really well. But Sunnyvale Community Services was being safe in distributing all those boxes of goods, and it was a lot of residents who contributed to that, as well as a lot of community sponsors, City of Sunnyvale, County of Santa Clara, El Camino Health, FedEx, Google, Intuitive, NetApp. A lot of people made sure that program was able to go off, and it was actually very close. We closely didn't have those boxes to distribute, but ultimately FedEx came through and the Rotary came through, and we were able to actually do those final deliveries, so it worked out well. And then last Tuesday evening was National Night Out. So I ended up visiting 7 different locations here in Sunnyvale, from the north end of the city to the south end. It was actually good. Other council members, public safety had their fire trucks out, motorcycle patrol, canine officers. But it was just great to be out in the community, seeing people, and a lot of residents. This was one of their big first social events that they had went to, and it was positive from that standpoint to see the kids playing, to see all the residents just kind of catching up, which was really nice. And then last Wednesday, we kicked off our downtown summer music series. So as opposed to having about 2.5, 3 months of music, it's only August. So Wednesday and Saturday nights, we will have music downtown. So Wednesday, of course, is rock, and Saturday is jazz. We also had, Groove Foundation was the first band, and I helped kick off that event last Wednesday. But the County Health Band was also in the Macy's parking lot, providing vaccination. So they had their tent set up. It was actually fairly positive and pretty busy, in talking to the nurses that ran the station. So they will be back later this month. But that was actually a big success. It was good to have the music and people out dancing. And then it's also just, highlighting what a fantastic downtown we have. So hopefully people have been able to make it out to either the Wednesday or Saturday night events. Last Thursday, our first redistricting outreach meeting happened, and we'll be having several of these meetings, but this was looking at communities of interest workshop. It was a hybrid meeting, so that there were people actually on the site at Columbia Neighborhood Center, and then there were also people connected via Zoom. So it actually worked out fairly well. But it's looking at communities of interest as we look at redistricting our city. And we have preliminary data, but we won't have the final data until later in the fall. But it's to look at as we 2 years ago we went through the effort of splitting up the city into 6 different districts. Ultimately, we are now looking at, based upon the census data, moving those boundary lines. And so that was the first of several outreach meetings. Council chose a redistricting commission a few months ago, and they've met, and this is kind of their first outreach meeting. But it's looking at what the areas of interest are within our city, whether or not it's neighborhoods, school attendance areas, mobile home parks, business areas, whether or not it's race, income, language. It's making sure that we actually have, people represented, and how we divide our city into different districts really makes sense. But there will be other meetings in the future. If you need to follow what's going on, if you want to get more involved, you can go to sunnyvale.ca.gov/redistricting for more information. And then last Saturday, of course, was the first evening of Jazz and Beyond. So this is the jazz portion. So Saturday nights is jazz, Wednesday nights is rock. That'll happen for the rest of August. And this is large tables downtown, people set up so that they can order from different restaurants, enjoy a good evening on Murphy Avenue. Let's see, on Tuesday of this week, and this week is not much has actually happened. Summertime, a lot, less happens at a city standpoint, or mainly at a state and federal standpoint and a county standpoint. A lot of a lot of the legislators are on vacation. Sunnyvale doesn't get a break. We actually by charter have to have 2 meetings every month, and so we have a little bit of a break, but pretty much we have a meeting every week or every other week as far as the city's concerned. But on Tuesday, council met, and we had several items. Our meeting went to around 11 or so, but council gave direction regarding returning to in-person public council meetings along with board and commission meetings. And the governor made several executive orders over the last year and a half regarding the Brown Act, but all those are set to expire October 1st. And with the increase in COVID and everything, it's trying to figure out how to start having hybrid meetings. So council gave directions, mainly regarding the public and city staff. It's always, we always want to make it as accessible as possible, and I think that's one of the positive things about the COVID pandemic is we've had to pivot to handle remote meetings. So council really chose that we will allow remote access from residents as well as city staff, as opposed to in the past, some items wouldn't come in front of council until 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and all those city staff would have to be in the room to answer council questions. So city staff can be remote. Of course, there's always a certain number of staff that will be in person when we go back to hybrid meetings, but residents could, the long-term goal is residents will also be able to access those meetings via Zoom, and it requires a little more effort and a little more staffing, but I think ultimately that will be a positive takeaway from this. The big thing, that I'm hoping the governor will change, or the state legislature will change, is to update the Brown Act. So, council members can't do a remote meeting unless they actually, as far as the way the old Brown Act acted, they couldn't have a remote meeting unless they posted 3 days before the meeting that this is going to be a public location where I will be accessing a public meeting remotely. That location needs to be ADA accessible. It needs to, if people want to come in and give public testimony, they should be able to come in. So it's not like a council member could just say, "Oh, I'm not feeling well today. I will be taking this meeting from home." It would have to be published as part of the agenda 3 days before the actual agenda. So hopefully the state legislators and/or the governor will extend this availability. I do think because of COVID, if someone's been exposed, the council member, the state legislator actually wouldn't be able to attend the meeting after October 1st if it was a last minute exposure, because from a health standpoint, they didn't post earlier that they were going to be working remotely, and so that would be actually against the existing Brown Act. And I've had to go to, I went to conferences where I've had to work out, or city staff and I have had to work out with the hotel to post, 3 days before that this meeting would also be being held. Our council meeting would be held remotely at a certain location, and that people would have access to that, and then having a business room in the hotel that's accessible. It's not an easy logistical thing, and so ultimately, I think having remote meetings for council members or legislators is also a positive thing in the long run. The other thing that the council went through is we considered long-term advocacy related to redistricting for elective offices representing Sunnyvale. And so that was one of the things that we didn't have. We do what our advocacy positions are at the beginning of every year, but we didn't actually have one for redistricting, and hopefully that will stay in there. But council has received lots of feedback on advocating for redistricting, and it mainly comes down to two things, one of which is county and one of which is congressional. CA 17, so our congressional district, currently represented by Hana, is the only majority minority district in the continental US. So we had lots of debate among council. Ultimately, we said we would advocate for two things. We would add advocacy for redistricting as part of what council does, as part of our standard policies. That being said, we said we would like to remain in CA 17, and so we'll be writing letters to the redistricting commissions to talk about how important that is. And definitely there are a lot of commonalities between the cities in CA 17, especially looking at Sunnyvale and Fremont. It might, Fremont's in a different county, but ultimately there's a lot of similarities as far as, from a population standpoint, a technology standpoint, and, really one of the most common things between our two cities is we're the second biggest city in the county, and it's always, the like in Santa Clara County, San Jose gets the main focus, and then being the second biggest city, it's trying to get that same focus. And I've had a lot of discussions with Mayor Lily May over the last year and a half, and it's actually, there is a lot of similarities between how Fremont and Sunnyvale operate, and also a lot of the challenges that we have. So, but it's, what council said is trying to maintain Sunnyvale as part of CA 17. And then the other thing is, we debated whether or not having one or two supervisors was better for Sunnyvale, and there's, a lot of benefits either way. Having two supervisors always means that we normally have 2 votes, and you look at San Jose and they actually have all 5 county supervisors that represent them. And so that means, yes, they have half of the county's population, but if you look at percentages, they really should only have, 2.5 or 3 county supervisors, not 5. And so ultimately, it was, I think council ended up kind of a split vote, but deciding that having, 2 or more supervisors would be best for Sunnyvale's interest. Ultimately, I think, there's the concept of, having a supervisor from our district, from Sunnyvale, that actually lives in Sunnyvale, that's on the county supervisors, which is positive. But ultimately, we'll see where things go in the long run. It is always, it's giving this feedback on advocacy to these redistricting commissions. We have no idea what they'll ultimately decide at the end of the day. And then finally, we introduced an ordinance to reduce the number of signatures required for district candidates submitting in lieu petitions. And one of the things that we do from like a campaign financing standpoint from Sunnyvale is we actually, if you get enough signatures, we pay for your candidate statement to go into the ballot information, and so that gets published with all of the ballot information. Uh, in the past, it was 250 signatures when it was citywide. Under COVID, and as we moved to district elections, we said, we'll just waive that for last year, because one of the things that the county registrar requires is all those to be handwritten, hard signatures. They can't be DocuSign or something of that nature. So from that standpoint, the best thing to do, going forward, is, because every district has fewer potential voters that would be signing up, we wanted to reduce the 250, which made sense when it was citywide, to a lower number, 50 or 100. We finally, staff recommended, and council, definitely felt that 100 was a nice barrier. You don't want anyone just running for council, and that barrier of, okay, if you reach a certain number of signatures, the city will ultimately pay for your ballot statement, means that you're actually, doing outreach in the community. You're getting people to actually support your campaign, which I think is really important to make sure that you're not just running to. You look at the recall campaign right now, and some people are just running to get their name out there, as opposed to, do you really want to run in the city? And getting those signatures is really important. So ultimately, council left 250 signature requirement for mayor to get their in-loose petition ballot statement published and paid for by the city, and then for district council members, district candidates, it would be 100 signatures. So that really made sense in the big picture to me. And then on Wednesday, at an Oakland press conference, Governor Newsom announced that all California teachers and all public school employees must show proof of vaccination or submit to regular COVID testing. And Governor Newsom's announcement came with the support of the California Teachers Association. I think he had put out some trial balloons earlier in the year, and they had pushed back a little bit. But the Teachers Association claims that about 90% of its members are already fully vaccinated, so that's been fairly positive. And then those teachers who choose not to get vaccinated will keep their jobs as long as they agree to that weekly testing. So all that, I think, is very positive from the safety of our children, and making sure that from a vaccination standpoint, they feel safe and teachers feel safe. Let's go ahead, on that note, let's get to our COVID numbers. The numbers nationally keep increasing, mainly from the Delta variant. For new COVID cases from a national standpoint, we've now surpassed 36.3 million cases, more than 900,000 new cases in the last week. It's more than 700,000 a week ago. So, new cases keep increasing. Nationally, we vaccinated 196 million people. That means about 71% of adults, more than 71% of adults have at least one dose, and 61% of adults are fully vaccinated across the nation. We've had 617,000 deaths due to COVID. That's more than 5,000 in the last week, and that's above 3,000 from a week ago. And from a California standpoint, we've had almost 4 million positive cases, so we'll be going over 4 million in the next few days. We're having about over 10,000 new cases a day. That's up from 9,500 a week ago. So the Delta variant is increasing spread within our communities. We've surpassed 64,000 fatalities in California regarding COVID. On a positive note, we've had over 45 million vaccines administered, about 700,000 in the last week. That's down about from a million that had been administered the week before. So we're still getting vaccines out there. It's becoming more and more difficult, of course. And as far as um, on a state by state basis, well, California has actually increased. It's finally doing a little bit better. It actually went from number 10 to number 9 on states with residents with at least one dose. So it's at 79.8%. We're still at number 17 on states with residents that are fully vaccinated at 64.4%. So it's actually good from that standpoint. California is getting those vaccines out there. From a county standpoint, we're doing fantastic. We are still seeing new cases. We just passed 127,000 total cumulative COVID-19 cases. That's up 2,000 since last week, but that's about the same as a week ago. So it's stabilized a little bit as far as the number of cases that we've had, but we've had 2 additional deaths related to COVID in the last week. That brings our total to 1,711 deaths. But 85.5% of our county, age 12 and older, has at least one dose of the vaccine, and almost 80% of those 12 and older are fully vaccinated, so 79.9%. So we will have, at least 80% of the county, 12 and older, will be fully vaccinated by this time next week. I continue to do a lot of advocating on our city's behalf, at the county level. I keep working to have testing and tracing here, as far as talking to county supervisors and county health, as far as testing is concerned. It's a little bit harder to get testing right now. There's not as many pop-up locations. If you can go to sccfreetest.org, I got tested at the Santa Clara City Library earlier this week, and so and you can still get tested, but it's a little bit harder as far as getting vaccinated. The city's helping you, so if you contact the city's senior center at 408-730-7360, they will help you set up an appointment. And the county vaccination van is doing in-home vaccination, so they will set up an on-site visit for you. You can go to sccfreevax.org to find out all the different pop-up locations that are happening around around the county. Last week we had the old Macy's parking lot of the van set up there right at Murphy and Washington. And the pop-up vaccination van will be back the last Wednesday of the month, August 22nd, from 5 to 10 p.m. So it's kind of an evening pop-up location for those people who are working all day and who can't get away to get their vaccinations. Next, I wanted to update you on some upcoming events. So on Sunday at Ponderosa Park, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., there will be a celebration for Indian Independence Day. So, there's normally a flag raising every year, and we didn't have one last year because of COVID. And it's good to kind of get back to some of the normal operations of what happens in the city and normal celebrations. So it's good we have a big Indian community here, and it's great to celebrate the sacrifices that were made to reach Indian independence. So for those of you that want to attend that event, that's a free event, and thanks to the community that got together to hold that event, and they hold that there every year when they can. And then our next council meeting, next week there'll be some board and commissions interviews, but our next big council meeting is August 31st. There's several big items on the agenda, one of which is review the data collected for the temporary closure for eastbound Tasman Drive. So we closed a lane during the COVID pandemic in order to make it easier for residents to walk along Tasman because there's not sidewalks that entire way. Um, and it'll be a consideration from council whether or not to extend that lane closure as employees begin to return back to the workplace. The other things that will be that's on our agenda is removing on-street parking for northbound Willow Avenue, and that's basically between Reed and Astor. It's right near Lawrence and the Caltrain station, but it's to install buffered bicycle lanes on both sides of the street, and that kind of goes with our active transportation plan that we approved last August. And so this is continuing the implementation of that plan. And so we'll see, what residents talk about, as well as what our council talks about during that meeting. Let's go ahead and get to our weekly questions. If you have a question, definitely drop it into the chat, and I'll try to get through it. Let's see. Going through our weekly questions. Dave asked, the trains going through downtown need to be controlled on how much horn is used. It is not healthy for people living near the station to put up with that abuse. Sunnyvale should really investigate this and get the Caltrain talk with Caltrain on reducing the amount of horn use, not including hearing loss for those adults and children waiting for the train station. Please stop the trains from using their horns at night. It's getting worse. And definitely there are safety issues as far as the train going into the stations. And that's one of the reasons why they honk their horns. But also, going through the different intersections. And so from a long-term grade separation at Sunnyvale and at Mary Avenue, we council a few years ago, or about a few years ago now, reduced those designs down to those two intersections down to two designs. There's long efforts going into finalizing what those designs are and bringing that back to council, but in a move to kind of boost the efforts to redesign those grade separations at Mary and Sunnyvale Avenues. One of the things that we did just this past week is Palo Alto, Mountain View, and Sunnyvale finally struck a deal for splitting the $700 million that they are entitled through Measure B. So in 2016, Measure B with the sales tax addition for Measure B had grade separation projects. So for those three cities, there's four crossings in Palo Alto, 2 in Mountain View, and 2 in Sunnyvale. And we negotiated trying to say that our Mary Avenue crossing was more complex, as far as some of them, as far as the number of lanes, and, it actually has a much bigger design effort. But ultimately, from an expediency standpoint, it was better to kind of reach an agreement. Measure B didn't lay out how the exact mechanism for distribution would be. So in order to get those funds as quickly as possible, we finally said, let's just divide it based upon the number of crossings that happen on a city by city basis. So that will move that project forward. Rich asked, when is the new OSH opening? So the new outdoor supply hardware is moving forward, and so this is at the one on Hollenbeck, not the one on Sunnyvale Saratoga, but the one at 1601 Hollenbeck near Homestead is going to be reopening. And so OSH was purchased by Lowe's, and ultimately Lowe's closed all the OSH stores. They're now rebranding and coming back as Outdoor Supply Hardware. That store is currently hiring people, and it should be open, last I heard, sometime in October. So it'll be actually good to have at least the outdoor portion of Osh back in our community. George asked, we are under a dire emergency regarding water. What is the city doing to restrict water and conserve water and to get the word out? So, a few weeks ago, council declared a stage 2 shortage and a 15% water use reduction goal. So this basically approved mandatory water irrigation schedules to 3 days a week, depending upon what your address is. So odd addresses should be irrigating on Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. And even addresses should be irrigating on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And so ultimately what that means from a city standpoint is, we'll be monitoring that. It's mainly done on a basis that people should be following that. We will send out, if people complain, we will put out warnings first. So one of the things that city does is they will be, warning people several times before an actual fine goes into place. So that's one of the things that we do, that trying to get the word out that yes, we have this new program in place, we have these new requirements from a city standpoint. Whatever we can do to bring that knowledge of, yes, you need to follow restrictions, you need to, so first and second violations are $0 warning. Third violation is $250. The fourth violation is $500. So outreach is going to be starting up in the next few weeks. The big thing is we'll be mailing postcards to all the houses. I think on August 20th, we'll be putting out kind of yard signs around our community with reminders. There'll be an ad in the Sunnyvale Sun. There's going to be social media work. And there will even staff will be tabling at the farmers market. So all those are positive, just to try to get the word out that yes, people need to be water conscious, save water wherever they can, showering with buckets and in the showers, doing what you can to conserve water, as well as use water wisely, or reuse kind of gray water where you can. Chris asked previously, when is Hanabusa Cafe opening? And it's taken a while, but they finally opened last week. And so Hanabusa Cafe is a Japanese souffle pancake that's very popular in Japan, that's finally coming into the US. They opened their first store here in Sunnyvale. They were on the path of opening last fall. They were, had hiring signs up, and then kind of put everything on hold because of, supply issues and COVID in general. They finally opened just over a week ago, but I was able to visit earlier this week. They're very positive about being in our community, and I really enjoyed the pancakes. So if you get a chance, it's still kind of a soft opening. They're still dealing with staffing issues and turning things out quickly, but it takes a while to create these kind of souffle pancakes, because they're made fresh, they're made to order. So ultimately, I think it's good to have another restaurant opening up in our community, and there are several restaurants that are about to open or just open that I'll be highlighting over the next few weeks. Definitely continue to go to eatsunnyvale.com to see what the latest restaurants are, as well as take a look at some of my old favorites. Margaret asked, how do I have our sidewalk tree trimmed? I don't know where to start. One of my common words to you is visit Access Sunnyvale. So at the top of sunnyvale.ca.gov, you see a Sunnyvale Access link, and in that you can basically report any issues that you find in our community. You can do a lot more than that, but you can report, abandoned cars, you can sidewalks that are cracked, potholes, traffic lights that are out, or stoplight or street lights that are out. And of course, if you have a street tree that needs to be trimmed, that's where you go. If it's in poor health, the city arborist will come out and send people to evaluate it, and then make sure that it gets on the list of okay, we're going to deal with this. I've done several in the last few weeks. The intersection at El Camino Real and Bernardo has some basically roots breaking through the side, or breaking through the street, and breaking through the road and kind of causing some traffic issues. So it's all those sorts of things. That's Access Sunnyvale is one of the best places you go to report issues in our community. Let's see if we have any other comments or questions. RV dwellers in neighboring cities are in the news a lot. Where are the primary RV dweller locations in Sunnyvale, either sanctioned or unsanctioned? So we've discussed having sanctioned locations. It's getting a site, I think, is one of the big issues, and I've been working with several of the churches. They're considering doing basically permitted RV and car parking in our cities. If that's already been approved, there's a process that staff has if there is a church that would like to set that up. Ultimately, I visited Life Move site in Mountain View, and I think that model is a lot better. It's not creating, it's not having people live in their cars. Ultimately, it's creating kind of transitionary housing for people that have cars. It's having them leave their cars at a different lot, and they can go visit them via a shuttle, but ultimately it's living in a room with private bathrooms, and it's not it's not an attached bathroom, although there are living spaces. So like in the Mountain View location that I toured last month, or about almost a month and a half ago now. Definitely there are positive things, that some of the family units that were there had private showers and bathrooms, but the majority of singles and couples could go to private bathrooms, private showers, but they're shared between multiple units that are there. But ultimately we're looking at possible locations here in the city to have those options. As far as within our city, there isn't a specific location that has a lot of cars or RV parking as far as unhoused people. We have the 72-hour requirement that people need to keep moving their cars or RVs every 72 hours. And there's several parks that people have parked at, but they seem to keep moving around, and I don't think we have the issues that Palo Alto along El Camino Real, or Mountain View next to the Caltrain tracks, or Shoreline. That we don't have that same issue. It's more spread out and not a congregated issue. So hopefully one of the churches will finally finalize having a safe parking location. But I think the right solution is having more of a Live Moves model that we're trying to get going within our city. Let's see. With this, Shane asked, with the significant rise in cases of COVID-19, is there any talk of a change in all the policies you just described? Should we consider possibly a more rigorous intervention like pre-vaccine day? So I don't think that we'll get to a full shutdown again. I think between the vaccines and masking, I think we're in a fairly good place. I've talked to several county health people, and they don't want to close indoor dining again. I think, from a positive standpoint, we have a large number of people vaccinated in our communities. And that plays to our benefit at the end of the day. I think, we have a lot of outdoor dining, and I think that's, it's trying to maintain, safety and reduce risk. And so, at least in talking to county health, they don't see the concept of going back to a full restriction of like, everyone, closing down indoor dining, closing down, bars indoors, everything of that nature. So I think, this is, there might be, and you saw just this week, San Francisco has said that they're going to be requiring vaccination, proof of vaccination for if you're going inside restaurants and all that. I don't think that will happen in our county. I think, San Francisco's been seeing a lot of pushback as far as that's concerned. And, there were, I think in New York, they did that this past week, and there were rallies, and I think, that is a little bit more difficult because there are people that can't get vaccinated, and because of medical conditions, because of medications that they're on. I know several people that their doctors have said you can't get the vaccine, and so to say, okay, you can't go to an indoor restaurant, we'll see. I don't think, that we'll, either ban indoor dining or that we'll be requiring vaccine proof of vaccinations to go inside of restaurants. I could be wrong, but at least in talking to my contacts within county health, they aren't currently, they're currently not moving towards a more stringent vaccine requirements as far as that's concerned. So, and I think that's it for the questions. So let me go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for joining me again this week. It's always good to talk to people, even remotely as we're doing now. It's always, it continues to be difficult in our communities, but your response really does make a difference at the end of the day. But I'm happy to see, I'm proud of really what Sunnyvale has done, as far as the last year and a half, responding to the pandemic. New issues come up, but your actions really do make a difference. Get your vaccination if you haven't already. Continue to help build community, rebuild our community really, wherever you can. Sunnyvale will emerge from this as a stronger community. We're in this together. We will get through this together. Thanks for listening again. Take care, wear your mask, and have a great weekend. Goodbye.